Going on, folks? Today I'm gonna make some brats. Shot a deer this fall. I've got a whole bunch of meat to process up. So today I'm gonna grind up a bunch of meat, season it, put it in the casings, and then we should have some brats to eat for a good amount of the summer. It's mid-February right now, so I'm not sure if they're gonna last the whole summer, but that's okay. So in my opinion, venison does not taste all that great. Just gonna throw this away. Of course, the finer cuts like the back strap and the tenderloins, those are excellent. Some of the best steak you'll ever have. But when it comes to the rest of it, I haven't had very good luck. So to me, it's just filler meat. It's meat that you can add to other things in order to just for weight, basically. So this is a pork shoulder, and I'm going to cut this up, and we're going to add it to the venison 50-50. So before the video started, what you didn't see is a whole lot of prep work. Started by cleaning the whole kitchen, did all the dishes, wiped down this counter really well, wiped down a bunch of the surfaces that I'm going to be using. In general, I'm going to do my very best to go and wash my hands after I touch anything that's not meant to go into the food. Of course, you always want to do that, but in case there's any little slip-ups, if I'm not paying attention, I've washed the backs of all these chairs, the handle to the refrigerator, things like that. And finally, wash yourself. After I did all that, I went and took a shower, shaved, clipped my fingernails, any little bit you can think of. Be as clean as possible. So now I'm just gonna cut this up. So see, this is the fat that I'm gonna take off. So on the bottom here, all that white is just fat. So I'm gonna cut that off, but you can see throughout here, there's little veins of fat and things like that. We're gonna leave that in. That is definitely flavor. So we don't want to take it all out, and it's not going to be worth our while. So now I'm just trying to cut this up into like 1.5 inch cubes. It just has to fit through the throat of the grinder. I've done the math, and the amount of money that I'm saving here by using deer meat, the exact number escapes me now. I think this year it's close to around $200. So that's after buying this pork shoulder, buying some seasonings, the casings, and other ingredients and things like that. The vacuum pack bags. See what else? Every little expense I could think of. Gas money for going out hunting, things like that. All of that was taken into account. And all in all, once you figure out the end market value of say a similar pork or all beef product that you're making with the venison, I figure this has saved me about $200. Again, this is just a very small dough this year, so not a lot of meat to go on this time around. But that's and those, I should say too, those are more of the direct costs. Indirect costs are obviously your time. All that takes a lot of time to go out, scope out your stand, find some deer sign out there, figure out where you want to hunt, and then obviously the hunt itself. All that takes a tremendous amount of time, and then there's all the equipment, all the gear, the weapon, the ammunition, anything you take with you out there, none of that is factored in. We'd be way in the negative. So you have to enjoy doing those things. Luckily, most of the gear that I hunt with, I'm still using from when I was in high school, and it was all gifted to me by my parents. So I'm not really out all that much money. Just some boots and ammunition, I suppose. Trying to get as much bang for the buck as possible. There, that'll do. Okay, so this is what we're going to use. So I'm going to run this down to the freezer right now. That's where I have all the rest of the meat. I thawed it out earlier, and now I've just got it chilling. It runs through the grinder a lot better if it's just a little bit frozen. So I'm going to run this down there and get that chilling with everything else while we get ready for the next part. Okay, so next I think I'm going to get all of the grinder parts chilling. Everything that I'm going to use in the grinding process and case stuffing process, including these bins, I'm going to get chilled. I want the meat to stay as cool as possible. So all the grinder parts and everything, I'm gonna put it all in this bin here. Just run it out to the garage. It's like 20 degrees today, so it'll get nice and chilled out there. I already have the seasons, all the seasonings portioned out, and those are in the freezer. Yeah, everything else is chilling already, so just run this stuff out to the garage. All right, so now we need to get the casings ready. Take a little bit, you can't just pull them out and start going. I need to soak. Actually, let me read the instructions here. Yeah, rinse thoroughly to remove all salt from the outside of the casings, then flush inside each with running water from one end to the other. Soak in lukewarm water for 60 minutes prior to stuffing. After opening, return casings to sealed container. Yeah, okay. So, got these casings from Walton's, and they're 32 to 35 millimeter thick, which is standard sizing for bratwurst. And yeah, they're packed in salt here as a preservative. These will last a really long time if you just keep them in salt. But I can't remember. Oh, right here. So this whole pack could case 25 pounds of meat. We're only doing 10 pounds today, probably closer to 12 actually, but still, so less than half of this we're actually going to use. So the rest of it, I don't have any interest. They're not super expensive. I don't have any interest in saving them until next hunting season, so we're just going to toss the remainder. So what you do, I've got my sink all nice and cleaned out here, because there is a chance that the casing might, the way that I do it anyway, the casings might touch the bottom of your sink. You want to have that very clean. So I'm going to get 2 bowls. I'm going to fill one up with lukewarm water. And that's what they're going to soak in. And this one I'm going to put in the sink. And that's what we're going to use to rinse these out. These are awfully messy. Looks kind of gross. I mean, these are pig intestines. That's what all natural casings are. So what you got to do, the very end of this is a tube. It looks like just a flat thing, but it's a tube. It's hollow on the inside, so you gotta open it up. See there, now I've got it open, so now I'm able to pour water down the middle of it. So I'm just gonna turn this on nice and slow. Put this right up next to it.
and just fill up the inside here. If you can see that, yep. So looks kind of weird, right? But we gotta flush out the entire inside of this. Do that once more. That's good. So that rinses all the salt off, and it also gets the middle of them nice and opened up, ready to take in the meat. So then that's what I'm left with. That's one. That's one I just pulled out. Set that in the water, keep soaking. We'll get this all assembled. So this grinder came with two different grinding plates. There's a coarse plate and a more fine plate. I'm using the fine one in this case. The first time that I did this, I ran the meat through twice, and the reason being is that I felt that it got everything, all the ingredients mixed a bit better, but I think the handling time that adds to the meat, and having the meat, warm up a little more during all that, and just the overall time in general. Plus, that really the grinder doesn't like it. Doesn't like having meat that's been ground run through it again. I mean, it does it, but it makes it harder. It's you're really trying to force it in there at that point, and so I found that it just the cost benefit to doing it twice isn't there. So the one thing I do though is I'll add the cheese to the meat before I grind it this first time. The cheese is the one thing I want to make sure, because the next time through the grinder is going to be the stuffing process, and that doesn't have a blade that's going to get anything chopped up. So I want the cheese to get good and chopped up. Okay, here's all the stuff. So this is the venison, 5 pounds of venison. Pop that in there first. I got that double thing, so this stuff, let's see. So I butchered that deer end of November. 11/25 is what I got on here. It is now mid-February, so that is a lot longer than I usually takes me to get this process going. But life happens, and here we are. I do usually like to have the meat in the freezer frozen for at least a couple of weeks. I heard that I saw somewhere that having the meat frozen for that long will do a little bit to kill anything, any potential bugs and things that might be in there. So as a practice, I never do this immediately after cutting up the deer. So if I'm wrong on that, please let me know. I was surprised to read that at first, because you think anything that's frozen is going to preserve it, including any parasites or whatever might be in there. So please let me know if you know better. So we're going to add cheese, obviously, right? This is Wisconsin. We're not going to make brats without putting cheese in it. This is cheddar. It's a high temperature cheese. That's I've never used a different kind of cheese. I read and found this before anything, before I ever did this my first time, so I don't have a trial and error that I can share with you, but regardless, this is high temperature cheese, and I want to add about 1.5 pounds to this. This is all just the portions that I figured out over the years. I think that ends up being about 15% of the meat to cheese ratio is about 15% cheese. So 1.5 pounds. Let's cut these open and add that in. These also came from Walton's. They're not a sponsor or anything, just they seem to have, especially with cheese, like I really, because this is Wisconsin, I wanted to see if there's a local option available, and Walton's is not local to Wisconsin, Wichita, Kansas actually, but they're, between their selection and their prices, this is what I'm going with. That's one whole bag. And we're just gonna do, I'm not gonna weigh it out. All the ingredients and everything else I do weigh out pretty particularly, but with the cheese, we're just gonna guesstimate, and it'll probably be a little heavy-handed, if you know what I mean. A little more for good measure. Yeah, a little more for good measure. Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. All right, I've washed my hands again, and now we're gonna dive in and just get this all mixed up. Here, I'll show this to you real quick. So, got the venison and the pork in there and all the cheese, and I'm just gonna use my hands and get it as mixed up as I can. The venison is a little bit frozen, which is what I want, so I'm having to break that apart a little bit. I don't think I mentioned the reason you use high temperature cheese is because it's not going to, it melts at a higher temperature, so it's not going to bubble up and explode when you've got your brats on the grill. That's fine. All right, here we go. This is going to be loud, so this is probably just going to be a time lapse. Alright, so the meat's all ground up. So what we're left with is all the cheese and all the venison and all the pork all ground up. So now we're gonna reset the grinder to have to take the sausage casings and divide up the meat, because we're doing 2 different batches, 2 different flavors. Season it up, mix it really well, and keep going. Alright, so everything's ground up, everything's still just in this one bin, nothing in this one yet. So what I'm going to do next is divide them 50-50-ish, because we're doing 2 different batches. I washed my hands again, and let's go for it. So I have done it where I found a recipe that you grind up your own pepper and thyme and oregano and all that kind of stuff. But to save time, I got kids and everything. I've just in this case I just bought some pre-mixed seasonings. So in this case, this is a Chicago style brat seasoning and a Blue Ribbon. I don't know if that's Pabst Blue Ribbon, but Blue Ribbon is what it's called. So that's what we'll do, and each of these have been in the freezer, so they're as chilled as possible. So what I'm going to do first here is get this meat as spread out in the pan as I can. when I sprinkle in the seasoning, I'll get it spread out as evenly as possible. Okay, so that's pretty good. The next what I do, I saw this probably on YouTube somewhere. I just take my fingers and I stick straight down, and I just make a bunch of holes in the meat. And what that does is it just offers some little spots for the seasoning to go down into. That way it's not all right up on the first surface, the top layer. Helps it to get mixed in a little better. The Chicago on this side. Alright, one last ingredient. So if you look up recipes, almost all of them are going to tell you to add a certain amount of water to the mixture. Why not just add beer? And they're beer brats. I've used a lot of different kinds of beer, and I haven't really noticed too much of a difference. There is a pretty good noticeable difference if you use some kind of domestic Pilsner or something compared to an IPA, then it's pretty noticeable. So I'd say anything that's not, like a standard Miller Lite or something like that. So I'm just using some from a local brewery, this Third Space, pretty good amber. I don't know, first time I'm using this here, but you need 1 cup in each of these for this portion of meat. Alright, so now we just get to mixing this up, and you want it to be really sticky. Like you should be able to pick up a handful, turn it upside down, and it won't even fall off your hands. Like I keep saying, it's important to keep the meat as chilled as possible throughout this whole process, so your hands will get very cold when you're mixing this up. Alright, here's a good chunk of meat. Won't even fall off my hands. That's about what you're looking for. And at this point, once you're done mixing it all up, this is a good opportunity to make yourself just a tiny little patty and fry some up. Just cook up a little bit and taste it. And you can decide now if you want to make any changes before we start stuffing casings. Grab your casings. Just want to find the end of one of them. Open it up and then slide it on over the horn. Just like that. We got it started. Gotta get the whole thing slid onto there. Okay, so the biggest challenge that we're going to run into this whole thing is making sure there's no air pockets in here. So we're going to get this going now. We're going to kind of prime this, right? So you get the meat out just to the edge here, and then I'm going to tie a knot in this. And I'm telling you all this now because once I start, I kind of just want to do it and keep going. I'll time lapse it and to stop and talk all the time. It's going to be loud anyway. So we'll get it to the edge. I'll tie a knot, and then I have just a little tack that I've washed and sanitized, but literally a thumbtack. And whenever I see a little air pocket, I'm just gonna pop it real quick. Pop it and make sure it expands and fills with meat. And that way, when you're grilling it up, those little air pockets, otherwise they would blow up, and then you'll get the fat and grease and everything spraying everywhere and flaming up your grill. So anyway, let's keep going. Alright, stir her up. And this knot that I just tied, we're going to cut that off once we form all these into brats. There's going to be a little bit of a, twisty part of the casing at the end of all of our brats when we're done. I'll show all that to you, but all that's going to get cut off, so don't worry about that. Probably saw this thing popping off. That shows you how sticky that meat is. And like I talked about how I used to run this through, this would have been the third time. Now I only do it once. That's part of the reason, because it gets so sticky and hard to force through the grinder at some point. But anyway, here's our first bit. It's kind of a it takes practice to do this. The first time I started this, I was making them way too big, and these were splitting up. And you actually want to make them. You want to stuff these a little. You've got some flexibility of how thick you can make it, right? You can stuff them a bit more, a bit less. You actually want them a little less than what you ultimately want in how big your brat's going to be. Because now that we have it in this big long line, now we're going to twist them up into individual sausages, and in that process of twisting them up, that's going to make this balloon a little bit. So what I like to do, and like I said, watch out for air pockets. This is pretty good actually. But like every time I had to let go here and go up here and fix something, then this kind of droops, and that can let some air pockets in. So. But I think we did all right. Oh, there's one. There's a good one. Actually, here's my tack. Just a little pin prick. And we can force out that air. Good. Easy. Yeah. If we see any more, we'll take care of them. But so now what we do is you got to decide how long you want your brat to be. Now, you take a tape measure or something. I found that just the width of my hand from my just the width here, that's a pretty good average for size of the brat. So what I'll do is I'll start at the end here. This is why I like to use parchment paper. I can just turn this around. This is naturally going to want to wind up the casing well. So I'll take this end to end. Okay, so this is my mark right there. So I'm going to take that and pinch it. Going to kind of pinch all the meat out of that, and then twist this. Just give it one twist, just like that. And that's actually a little small. Here, let's untwist that. And so easy to fix, right? I decided that was a little small, so untwisted it, and I'm just going to force a little bit more of that meat over to that side. There, that's better. Twist that up. I'm going to go over here again, measure up another one, pinch it. Now this one, I want to twist in the opposite direction. So I twisted this one this way, this one's going to come this way. That way this point here is just getting more twisted. If I twisted this the same way as this one, then this would just untwist altogether. Oh, I've already screwed up. There. So see what I mean? So these have to twist in opposite directions because of this joint here. Otherwise, if I twist this one like this and this one like this, then this would become nothing. So there's that. So I got two. I'm gonna twist up another one. And again, I mean, these are homemade, you know, they don't have to be perfect. They're fine. You know, just my friends and family is going to be eating these. They're going to taste good no matter what they look like, so it's fine. Okay. Once again. Actually worked out pretty well. What I like to do is I like to work from the end I started, and I'll twist up, you know, the very first bit that we tied up, and then all the sausage got made. You start from that end when you twist them up, and then work your way back. And then, so I actually should have waited when I tied off the end there. This is the first batch of the year. I forgot. So you want to wait to tie off the very end of it until you get them all twisted, so you can work the meat through as you're going. You can squeeze out a little bit, make them the consistency you want, and that way, if you're left with like a half a brat at the very end, you just squeeze out that half a brat worth of meat and dump it back in the top, and then you're not, wasting a little bit. So this is pretty good. Even though I screwed that part up, these worked out pretty well. This is not bad at all. So I'm just going to fold those up, and I'm going to stick these in the fridge so they chill while we work on the rest. All right, last step here. Get the brats cut in individual pieces and then get them in the vacuum sealer. Probably it's dark now. It's late. We started this probably about 2 o'clock, I think, and it's 7 now. So it's doesn't seem like it takes long, but it does take a long time. And this is a small batch too. This is last year I did about 40 pounds of brats. This year is just about 12, so it's a lot. All right, so I have a knife that I just sharpened, and we just need to cut these apart. That's all we got to do. So hole in there, and I sliced pretty close to one brat, so there's not much excess there. And then just come on the other side, cut off whatever we don't need. Set that aside. This garbage. And there's one. This one's this is the end piece. That's kind of small actually, but this is what it is. We'll just eat that one right away. So it's got a little bit of a hole in it coming out. That's okay. Just a little bit on this one I want to trim off. Cool. That's that. Do all these in line. I've got all the rest from here in a Ziploc. I've just been putting them in here into the fridge as I get done with them, so they stay cool. Okay. Number 6. I'll seal these up. Now, here's my trick to sealing these. Because this has to lie in here very flat for this to come down, and if it's not lying flat, if there's any wrinkles, then this isn't going to seal properly and won't be able to vacuum it out. And I have no idea. I suppose if you cut this a lot longer, then you can maybe lay it flat and it'd be fine, but that's a waste of paper, and every couple of cents counts here. So here's the strategy that I figured out, because you have to be able to hold this in here, close this, and work the buttons. But I can't. I have to hold this straight and then I can't wait unless I'm out there with the button. So here's how I do it. Hold it on there flat, just where I want it. There it is. If it works, is it a bad idea? I don't know. Tell me how you do it. So, I'm going to do up the rest of these and then we're done. So that'll be the end of this video. I'll probably get about 2 dozen of each flavor out of this. Yeah, so 5-6 pounds of brats makes about 2 dozen here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Okay, preview of an upcoming project is the lawn. This lawn has never looked all that great. Previous homeowners, I think, didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. So we'd like to finally get going on that. I don't really know anything about that. How do I need to fertilize it every year? Do I put down new seed? Do I do both of those things? This side of the lawn over here gets quite a bit of shade, so maybe need some special seed for that. It's kind of patchy and mossy in some spots too. It gets plenty of rain usually, so I don't know. I'll show you a factor in the backyard to consider too real quick. Okay, here in the backyard, it's pretty similar. This corner of the lawn over here, when we moved in, this was just full of leaves that hadn't been raked the year before. A whole bunch of brush was piled up. So last year I finally was able to get a little bit of grass to grow by putting down new seed. But I didn't get too far before, we had kind of a dry fall. So it didn't really take off too well. But what I think might be a big factor, let me know, is this big black walnut tree. I've heard the black walnuts are not good for getting anything to grow really. So for that reason, I do intend to cut this tree down at some point. It's a really pretty tree, and I hate to do that. It is in the middle of the lawn too, and I don't like that because it limits what you can do with the lawn. Anyway, is there anything I can do to combat what the effects of this tree on the lawn? I was thinking maybe it's the walnuts that drop, and as those start to rot and and seep into the soil, so maybe that's why I've been pretty good about keeping all the seeds picked up as they fall. But you'll have to let me know. Is it a lost cause? Does the tree have to go, or what can I do different? But back to the lawn in general. Let me know any advice. Maybe an expert I should talk to. I've heard that there are places you can go to get a soil tested to get fertilizer made right just for you. Is that worth it? So, there's this massive dead willow tree too that this big limb fell off last year. This thing sounded like Optimus Prime landing in our backyard when it fell. We gotta get this cleaned up too. There's always something.